itself. There's a reading about Cubism that you need to read. It's on the website. It's not that long, and it has a bunch of pictures, so no bitching about it. So just to look very briefly at some paintings, to talk a little bit about some of the elements that are present in them that we will also see in the photographs. So this sort of level of abstraction where we start to see representations of things that, again, right, are not mimetic, are not virtual reality, ways that pieces of something stand in for the whole, right? We have this like this scarf or this thing that suggests a hat, this shape that suggests an arm, again the hat. There are pieces that we're just sort of like not sure what they are. They're just kind of like their presence, this vibrational existence, in the same way that as I look out into this gilded palace in which I live, right, there are many bits which are not present necessarily. I'm making decisions about what is subject, what is background. Right, the way that we get like this moment of something over here and then sort of like a collapse into rhythm and figure, and then again a recognizable moment there. And yet the whole thing overall is still very much a composition, right? The light, the tone, the color is meant to have an aesthetic effect. Go through some more of these. Right, this is a higher level of abstraction than what we're really going to be getting into. Photography doesn't abstract easily, right? Painting, you can just like, right, boom, doesn't look like anything. It's abstraction. Photography almost always has a direct relationship between the recorded image and an external reality. I would say probably always. And so in that way, the level of abstraction that we get in photography is almost always lower and certainly always different from what something like painting can get. So when we look at something like this and we see sort of like, just like the suggestion of the figure, the sort of faceting multiplicity of different sort of like moments of seeing or viewpoints, that's not something that we can really get to. Even this sort of simplification that we're getting from Cézanne, right? We can think about strategies that we could have to get toward that. But I think really in the work that we're going to be doing for this assignment, the thing to take away from Cubism are more notions of time, notions of perception, notions of how to sort of compose something that is becoming fragmented and fractured or turned. Right, the way that you can have one piece of something suggest the whole, right? The way that this violin, right, in the title, violin and candlestick, is just sort of these two curves and that suggestion of a neck. Right? And that's enough to get us to violin, right? If I'm depicting a space, a person, what is the essential thing that I need to be able to get that, right? How can I convey an experience to you without feeling like I have to do it by giving you every possible relentless descriptive detail? This is my favorite transition right here. So this is the Eiffel Tower, and like the energy and the the light and the sort of the searchlights and the sort of like feeling of smoke and fire, and then Thomas Kellner. I was very proud of this transition, right? Also a picture of the Eiffel Tower. Also, again, this sort of like fracturing energy going up. Right, it's an abstraction, and yet we still know what it is, right? There's no question, like you're not going to look at that and be like, oh, it's a camel, right? Like, no, come on. Thomas Kellner doing this by, this is sort of his contact sheet, right? So he's very, very carefully and thoughtfully figured out what does each frame in the sequence need to be so that I can assemble them into this overall picture, right? Looks haphazard is not haphazard. Also, the way that he goes from something which is relatively, all the pieces are there, right? Like this part at the bottom, you know, it is, everything lines up, everything is pretty consistent. And then as he gets higher and higher, you get this sort of energy, sort of like dancing almost of those buildings. Brooklyn Bridge, London Bridge. So that brings us to the person that we're really going to be looking at most closely this week. And this is not sort of the style of work that we're going to be engaging with, but it's sort of a nice connection with this sort of contact sheet grid that Thomas Kellner has.